is no prophet except to remind his people of the defamation of the Antichrist, including Prophet Muhammad. He said, "Since the creation of the prophet Adam until the coming of the day of resurrection, there is no case, slander, that is greater than the DAJJAL." The prophet said, actually the Antichrist will appear by bringing a kind of heaven and hell, something that is said to be heaven by the Antichrist, then it is actually hell. He also warned us, whoever hears the news of the presence of the Antichrist, then try to avoid/stay away from him. By Allah, sometimes a person is visited by the Antichrist and he considers the Antichrist as a believer so that he becomes his follower, because it is shown to him various kinds of doubt. And many more other hadiths about this DAJJAL. The DAJJAL is a very genius figure. He knows various sciences and masters various kinds of secrets of the universe. Some narrations say that he also mastered Islamic sciences, so that at the beginning of his appearance, he appeared as a pious Muslim preacher. It can perform various kinds of miracles because of its knowledge of the secrets of the universe, and of course because it is permitted by God, so that more followers. Eventually he claimed to be a prophet, and as more and more people worshipped him, he claimed to be God. There is no definite history that explains when this DAJJAL was born. An Egyptian scholar, thinker, and journalist named Syed Muhammad Isa Daud stated that the Antichrist was born about a century before the Prophet Musa was born. The Antichrist's parents lived in the Samarra area, a small area in Palestine, which later became a large city, the capital of the kingdom of Prophet David and Prophet Suleiman. Samarra society is idol worshippers and perpetrators of various kinds of disobedience, including sodomy and liwat, homosexuals. The Antichrist's parents had idols similar to a female calf, and since their marriage, they have always made offerings to their idols, with the request that they be given offspring to a son. After 30 years passed, then his wife conceived and gave birth to a son, but his eyes were deformed. One could see and his body did not move much. For years like he just slept alone, but strangely he grew like a baby in general. At the age of 4, one night he moved away from his bed between his mother's father and moved next to the idol like a female cow, and slept there. Several times returned, he moved again to the side of the idol without anyone knowing. The horrendous situation had made his father examined and detained by the judge. When he was 5 years old, Allah inflicted doom on the inhabitants of Samarra. The earth was shaken by an earthquake so hard that the land was overturned, as happened to the Sadumi and Amura. Strangely enough, the 5-year-old boy survived, living alone among the scattered rubble. It seems that God has a big plan with the child. Came the angel Gabriel sent by God to save the child. After being saved by the angel Gabriel, a strange hairy creature came and could speak like a human, Al-Jassasa, whose name was to take care of this child. Then Al-Jassasa took him to a remote island among various islands in the wilderness of the Yemen Sea, part of the Indian Ocean. Al-Jassasa taught this little DAJJAL about a lot of knowledge. Once there was a boat that docked on the island, and he was taken along outside the island. They thought, the man might be the victim of one of the sinking and stranded boats on the island. They dropped this DAJJAL candidate on the mainland of Yemen, a distance of about 4,000 km from the island. He began to wander, explore various places, and because God provided him with a very genius brain, he learned quickly and his intelligence increased, easily adjusting himself to the new environment. In his new place, he introduced himself as Ibn Samarra, a name that was attributed to his place of origin as told by Al-Jassasa. He worked as a steward of a Yemeni philosopher. One time the philosopher was interested in examining the power of thought and the strangeness of his behavior, and finally the philosopher concluded, "If you can live long, you can be a very fair king, or vice versa a very wrongful king. After living for several years with the philosopher, Ibn Samirah wished to visit his native Samirah, which was in Palestine. He bought a big boat and hired several fishermen to run it. All the needs and equipment are also prepared in the boat. But before heading to Palestine, he wanted to visit the remote island where his childhood lived with Al-Jassasa. Although it is not easy for others to find it, but the power of his memory and mind easily takes him to the island. When he docked in a small boat on his beach, Al-Jassasa looked at him sharply, but then left him in the forest without saying anything. Ibn Samirah walked around in memory of his childhood. Does not feel he has more than 100 years old, but there is absolutely no streaks of aging on his face. In fact, it seems that he feels stronger and more determined, like when he was in his 30s. When he came to the stone panel that read Angel Gabriel's teachings, he found a vessel containing a kind of ink used to write on the stone. He took the labor. He also took or cut from each panel the teaching stone for remembrance. Then he returned to his boat to leave the island again and set his boat to Palestine. When he arrived in Palestina, he continued his journey to Samirah with the camels he bought. Although he found nothing from the devastated, uninhabited Samirah country, from several elderly people in neighboring Samirah countries such as Al-Jalil and Al-Arbad, he heard the story of the children the gods took to his lap. There is also a rumor about a child who was kidnapped by an angel during a major disaster that destroyed Samirah. The stories seem to justify his identity as told by Al-Jassasa. After living in Palestine for several years, he decided to head to the land of the Pharaoh, Egypt. He applied to be the servant of a famous shaman in the country. A shaman who saw the intelligence in the young man gladly accepted it. At that time the prophet Musa, and the U.S. prophet Aaron were preaching the religion of monotheism to Pharaoh and the people of Egypt, especially the children of Israel who lived in slavery in the country. The shaman he attended was a person of 300 years old and very familiar with the life history of the prophet Musa in the United States. When he heard the story of Musa, he immediately told the story of his life, which immediately the shaman said, "Then you are another Moses, namely Musa of Samirah, Musa as Samurai." Maybe because of this, an expression emerged from some of the scholars in terms of education and teaching. Moses, who was educated by Pharaoh, became one of the prophets and apostles, while Musa, as Samurai, who was educated by the angel Gabriel, instead became the most disbeliever to Allah. Ibn Samirah was very impressed with the commentary of the shaman, and he felt his degree was not too far from the prophet Musa. After some time, he decided to join the children of Israel because of the closeness of the area and the bloodline of his ancestors who met the prophet Moses, namely to the prophet Jacob. He also married a woman of the children of Israel but did not have children. However, even though he saw various kinds of miracles performed by the prophet Musa, the heart could not fully believe in the prophet Musa, as well as believe in Allah SWT. Meanwhile, some people from the children of Israel showed appreciation and closeness to Ibn Samirah because of his intelligence and expertise in several ways. Although not many, they are like slaves Ibn Samirah, who will always obey if ordered. When Allah, SWT, ordered the prophet Musa and the children of Israel to leave Egypt for Palestine, Ibn Samirah participated in the large group. Several times he saw with his own eyes the miracles of the prophet Musa including splitting the sea with his stick, but all that did not make him believe. Even in his mind, I will be able to do it someday, even more awesome. When the children of Israel had survived the pursuit of Pharaoh and arrived on the side of Mount Thursday Sinai, the prophet Moses left them under the supervision of the prophet Aaron to immediately face God on Mount Sinai. At that moment Ibn Samirah caused a tantrum by making a golden calf statue that could speak, and said that it was the God of Moses and the children of Israel. Most of them believed him and worshipped the golden statue. All efforts were made by the prophet Aaron to prevent them but failed. More details can be seen in the Quran Surah Taha verses 83 to 97, which became the basis of Shaykh Muhammad Isa Daud's reflection, so that concluded that Samurai or Ibn Samirah was a candidate for the Antichrist, was the attitude of the prophet Moses in the incident. When the prophet Moses came down from Thursday Sinai carrying a stone shuhav containing the commandments, the 10 commandments, Moses saw his people worshipping and dancing in front of his new God, a statue of a female calf of gold that could speak. The heart of the prophet Musa was very angry, his face turned red and he unconsciously threw the soul he was holding while shouting loudly. Hearing his loud voice, the children of Israel immediately stopped his worship activities with fear. Moses was furious and then approached the prophet Aaron, pulled his beard and held his head and said angrily, as if the prophet Aaron had ignored his orders, see Surah Taha verses 92 to 94. Whereas the prophet Harun had tried hard, but he was unable to influence the children of Israel who had been under the control and influence of Samurai or Ibn Samirah. But when the prophet Musa confronted Samurai, the brain of all kinds of chaos and slander for the children of Israel after his death to Thursday Sinai, the Quran, Surah Taha verses 95 to 97, did not explain the hard attitude of the prophet Musa as before. In fact, he finally just said, "Go you then, surely for you in this world life can only say, do not touch me. And in fact for you there is a set time, which you will not be able to avoid." QS Taha 97.